I'm Keith Stewart, the Director of Fun at Springdale Golf Club in Princeton, New Jersey, and this is the True Philadelphia Podcast with Matt O'Donnell.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt O'Donnell, and thanks for joining us on the True Philadelphia Podcast. This is the Masters edition of the podcast. It's hard to believe that they're going to play the tournament down at Augusta National as the leaves are falling and changing, but at least they're playing it at all, right? Our guest, Keith Stewart, he is the head golf professional at Springdale Golf Club in Princeton, New Jersey. He is also a podcast host himself, the host of the Springdale Golf Live podcast. And we talk about how a golf professional manages to attain a skill set needed to become a podcast host. We also talk to him about Tiger Woods. Keith knows Tiger from his days when he was an assistant pro down in Florida years back. We talk about how the pandemic has changed the game of golf, how it may continue to evolve, and maybe a little bit later, Keith will take a look at my golf swing. It's all coming up on the True Philadelphia Podcast. Keith Stewart, Springdale Golf Club. Keith Stewart here on the beautiful grounds of Springdale Golf Club in Princeton, New Jersey. Why do I feel so calm right now, by the way? I don't understand.
Why you feel so calm? Well, you're with the Director of Fun, and you're going to have a Springdale day. And, you know, a lot of people come to Springdale, and one of the things that they notice is that it's a very relaxing atmosphere. You know, the world kind of runs around us like a Hitchcock film. You know, it's almost like it's spinning at times. And when you come here, my staff and I, and the whole team here at Springdale, we enjoy this, our mantra, our mindset, our philosophy is to have a Springdale day. And part of that is just to come here and have a good time and relax.
Keith and I have a lot in common. We love golf, and we're both podcasters. That's really what caused this whole thing to happen. We did a podcast with you on your show. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. Decided to do one for the True Philadelphia Podcast, and then maybe, if we have time, we'll do a little golf afterwards. So we got to rush this a little bit. The first thing I'll have to ask you is, how's your year been going?
Well, you know, COVID it provided a lot of challenges back in the spring, but honestly, we've had one of the greatest years ever in golf. And that's across the nation. The National Golf Foundation will tell you that rounds are up all over the country. In July and August, imagine this, Matt, right? So you're a golfer, avid golfer.
Sure.
In July and August nationwide, for the first time in decades, there was a 2% increase in golf rounds played across the country, in all 50 states, right? So everyone's out enjoying this game and doing the things, and hopefully what we're gonna do in just a little bit, which is go out and hit the links for a little bit and have some fun. And it's been just such a phenomenal year here at the club, but nationwide with golf. Millions of more people are playing golf. And, you know, as someone who's an ambassador for the game and trying to draw more people in, really, I mean, this is gonna sound kind of awkward to say, but COVID couldn't have hit at a better time, right? For the game. You know, golf as a game it's pandemic proof. You go outside, we're socially distanced. Most golfers aren't that good, so they hit the ball away from one another. And there's plenty of space. We don't have to go in an arena, and we don't have to come into contact with one another in order to play. So it's really been just a phenomenal year for the game, for Springdale, and for me personally.
1997, Tiger Woods, first major championship, shocked the world by winning the Masters by 1 million strokes. And then you see the Tiger boom. You see more golf courses, you see purses for the PGA go up, more people are interested in playing, people are buying apparel, people are buying equipment, they want to hit the ball further, and then it sort of dies off after a while, along with maybe Tiger's play. And then you see the pandemic boom that you just mentioned. How are those two the same, different, and do you see this pandemic boom sustaining itself for the golf industry?
Wow, that's a,
in 3 words or less.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we started with the soft ones. No, in all honesty, you know what? I hadn't thought about that until right this instant. But you bring up a good point. When Tiger hits in '97, we're not prepared for the immediate impact that he is going to put on the game. as a PGA professional, I'll just speak for my association, right? No one was ready for what was going to happen then because it had never happened before. And if it had, it happened multiple generations before that, maybe in the golden age of golf courses like the 20s and 30s, but it hadn't happened for the people that were alive to have that level of immediate interest in the game, the amount of rounds played, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we have a dip with the 09 recession. Let's just time it with that, okay? Now we come back and we have this immediate impact again. We know so much more about the consumer in golf, as PGA professionals or the other allied associations, the USGA, the LPGA, all of these groups have now come together. We're kind of looking up to our main man, Jay Monahan at the PGA Tour, as he kind of leads all of these groups together. And what we've learned is, how to not only just, bring that customer in and charge them a daily fee, whether you'd be over at one of the public golf courses or they join a club. But now we know what to do through programming that all of these allied associations, but certainly the PGA of America does better than anybody. And we've learned through our trials with things like Get Golf Ready and some other programs that we ran in the 2000s that were kind of a reaction to what happened in 1997. Well, guess what? Right now as a PGA professional, we're putting the pro in proactive. And what we're doing is that we're ready now for this immediate impact. We have the statistical data to say where people are and how we're going to take care of them. And you're going to see a lot of really cool things come out of this COVID situation for golf. And you just wait till 2021. The programs that we're going to run out nationwide are just going to be really cool, really cool.
So the answer is yes, this will sustain itself. Maybe not to this level of interest, but this boom will last.
I think that if we're 20% more than where we were, that yes, 10% will stay, for sure.
So golf courses did a ton of things to prepare for people to return after the initial shutdowns with the pandemic, and not having rakes in bunkers so people don't touch them, leaving the pins in, having a device where you can use your putter to pull the ball out, spacing people out, one person per carts, et cetera, et cetera. Do you see anything that you've changed here or that maybe public golf courses have changed that might be something to be like, I don't understand why we didn't do that in the beginning and let's just keep doing it? Hopefully not. I mean, you think people should be more together, I guess, once the pandemic burns out.
Well, I think people should do what they're comfortable with, honestly. I've seen a lot of interesting trends this year. I think one of the things that's the most important is how we've taken a new approach to, I guess, the player-coach relationship. One of the things that was most important to me when we came back, I don't need a rake to enjoy my round, right? But my members, or golfers in general, they need some golf experts, and it just can't all be digital. It can't all be on Instagram. So one of the things that we spent a lot of time thinking about was that when we could go back to teaching people. And one of the trends is that I think we were a lot more thoughtful now about how we interact with people in close proximity when we're giving golf lessons. And I think that, that translated in from just the world in general, where, we had to think more about wearing masks and washing our hands and doing those things. So, I think people will get back together in carts. I think that there will be rakes again at some point. Caddies won't be wearing masks. I think at some point we will figure all this out, kind of in a Darwinian way. We will evolve and figure this out. But one of the coolest things that I've noticed that is a change that I hope, kind of continues to go forward, to answer your question, is that the intimate player-coach relationship, right? I think we're paying more attention to that now.
Okay.
And I think that in clinic situations and the way that we are connecting with the golfers is more impactful than it's ever been.
Pat on the back time.
Oh boy.
You're not just any golf professional. I mean, you're well known throughout New Jersey. Last year, you won the New Jersey Professional of the Year award. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You yourself call yourself the director of fun. You never won that. That was just like self-anointed, right?
Yeah. Yes.
But
yep.
I love that because everyone knows how frustrating golf can be and how people make it not fun the way that they play it. And you're responsible for hundreds of people here to have fun with golf. How do you help people have more fun while playing this game?
Actually, going back to your question before about the boom in '97 versus the boom now, one of the things that we know now is that the game should be more fun. So back in '97, everything was very strict. You know, I mean, you had to wear pleated pants and your shirt had to be 2 sizes too big, Matt, right? Okay, if you look back at those videos. Nowadays, our clothes actually fit. Now, all kidding inside. And I mean, I guess that's my director of fun personality coming out. But I am so happy when I look across, you know, the board at all of my peers, men and women, the way that they are introducing fun into the game. And here's an example. This club is an institution in golf. We've been here for 125 years. I am their 9th golf professional. So imagine that.
That's stability right
there.
Yeah,
imagine that golfing tradition and how wonderful it is for the people that are here that you can see in the background that are out playing golf on this beautiful morning. And this past September, when we celebrated our anniversary, we had a huge member tournament. And the favor for that tournament was a Bluetooth speaker at a golf club in Princeton that's older than the country, right?
Rodney Dangerfield handed them out, right?
Yes, yeah, with a free bowl of soup, for sure.
Looks good on you, though.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah.
Why did it take so long to have that happen, by the way? But anyway, go ahead.
You do drugs, Matt?
Well, you should keep doing them.
Yeah.
Anyway, Danny.
We can't go down that rabbit
Keith,
hole.
Be the bald, Keith. Be the bald. So
Yes.
You gave out the Bluetooth
So we give out
speakers.
the Bluetooth speakers, right? I mean, when would that have ever happened in golf?
Sure.
It wouldn't have happened in the '97 boom. So fast forward to the 2020 boom, people are having more fun, okay? And I picked up this mantra. So yeah, I'm a legend in my own mind. I made up a name for a title for myself. But for me, 10 years ago, at a place like this, they don't need a director of golf, right? They need someone that was here to help people enjoy the game. The game is hard. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And the more fun people are having out on the golf course, listening to music, having a couple of drinks, finding some fun format for them to play with their friends week in and week out, I think is really why we're going to sustain the game. Is it because as a society, you know, as you get older, you kind of pay attention and you learn from the generations behind you. Mm-hmm. So I'm learning from the millennial generation, and then my kids who are, you know, the next generation after that, the, you know, Generation Z or whatever you want to call it, they have way more fun doing things than, that, say, you and I would when we were their age as Generation Xers. And I think that's really important.
I think you're onto something there when you have younger people come in and the older people and us, I guess we're in the middle, hopefully lower on the middle side, and maybe we're a little bit more stuffy than people like. But when the younger people come in, loosens us up. They show how you can do other things. It's sort of like the bat flip in the MLB. You used to get beamed by the pitcher the next time you're up at bat. Now, people kind of like to see it because they're having fun.
I mean, social media, the amount of different things that people do to celebrate, you know, as long as it's in good taste, I'm all for it. But golf is on the precipice of something great because leaders like myself choose to just step up and say, hey, we're going to have more fun. Golf can be more fun. You can still follow the rules. Yeah. I'm not saying you're not going to follow the rules, but my members have a great time playing golf here, and there's nothing that makes me more proud than that.
Still no pots and pans banging them in people's backswings.
No,
can't do that.
I'll leave that to Tiger's dad.
What fascinates me about you, Keith, is that I'm always fascinated by people who do more than one thing and they do it really well. Obviously, you got the golf thing figured out, but at the same time, you're a podcaster, and you've had great success doing that, and obviously a lot of fun, helps grow the game, helps advertise Springdale Golf Club as well. When did you start podcasting, and why did you get into it?
Well, real quick Reader's Digest version. About 5 or 6 years ago, I kind of came up with a why statement, you know, and I guess, you know, the whole cynic thing had hit YouTube, and it was like it was like this cliche thing to do to figure out, like, you know, what kind of gets you up and you know, spins your yarn in the morning. And my why statement was, you know, I just wanted to change the way people see the game. And I felt like that was something that I could do with my voice. Anyone that knows me knows I love to talk. And so
you have a good voice. I mean, immediately when you started speaking, I'd never met you before the podcast. Like, this guy's got a pretty good voice.
So I started to introduce myself to some friends who had, you know, medium with which to tell a story. Not my story, but the story of golf in just a different light. And it was always kind of coming down like, you know, don't touch the flagstick, or, you know, you need to finish in 4 hours, and you know, all of these, you know, kind of restrictions were in place, right? And we've seen how the world loves restrictions just this year alone. So, I constantly get on there, and, disruption's a very kind of, trendy word right now. So I kind of, get on there as the director of fun. And, I play this, it's not really an alter ego because I act the same way here.
I've already seen that.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I get on, and every Friday afternoon, I host a live radio show on ESPN Radio, and we have a great time. And I bring on guests like you who are certainly not your normal, I'm just not looking for a USGA rules official or, your standard tour pro. I want to talk to different people in the pop culture of sports, and certainly there's a golf bias because I'm a PGA pro. And that's why I do it. Now, fast forward, I've had my own show on ESPN Radio for over 2 years, and it continues to grow. I've got wonderful sponsors like the New Jersey Golf Foundation, TaylorMade. I mean, this is a real thing. And people, week in and week out, I take the show, and then, it becomes a podcast, and I put it out there for the world to listen. And I can't remember the last time there weren't a dozen people, 20 people on a daily basis that listen to the show all over the world. So somebody likes the message. They like the director of fun, and it makes me happy to, continue to be creative and find new and interesting ways to engage that audience and satiate my why statement.
Maybe the thing to take out of this for people who are not even in golf, but let's say, there's so many people who are out of work, and they're like, I need to kind of reinvent myself right now to get back into the workforce. And what you did was you took another skill you had. You love to talk. You have a really good radio voice, and you went with it. Maybe that's what people need to search for sometimes. Something that they're not using that's in their toolbox that they can use for something else.
Well, it's funny. You talked about the awards. And, one of the things being kind of thrust into the limelight and being recognized by my peers is that from time to time, I end up in a mentor situation. And one of the things I think I've learned through that process, and you just brought it up, is that as people are coming out of this, and if there's a transition in their life, I think it's really important that sometimes we forget ourselves. We forget to take care of ourselves. And as human beings, I think we're almost like innately just driven to help others or to go and look at away from ourselves and not look in the mirror. And someone that's been in the service industry since I was a bag rat, I'm a Touch Golf and Country Club when I was like 14 years old and a caddy. I've been in this service entertainment business. We call it the entertainment business because, like Disney puts a cool word on that, and then you don't feel like when you're cleaning clubs that, it's kind of a glamorous lifestyle to tell your parents about. But you get out there and you do something for yourself instead. So my recommendation would be, and if there's one thing I've learned and how I got to this point, is that on a weekly basis, do something for yourself. Try to grow for yourself. You don't have to come up with this magnanimous why statement or whatever. I mean, that just kind of hit me. And all of these things have kind of built on top of one another, like I'm climbing some ladder of life, rung by rung. But when it comes right down to it, I think that when people ask me to be a mentor, and I learn from those mentees, I try to impress upon them, hey, if you're in an industry where you've been completely focused on everyone else, maybe it's time to spend a little time looking internally and say, what can I do one thing this week? Now, for you, Matt, it could be, reach out to an old colleague just to reconnect. It could be take a golf lesson because your bunker play has been less than stellar. I mean, it could be anything. But, the world is tough. The game is tough. Treat yourself. Well, that would be my message.
Yeah. If I asked you to text Tiger Woods right now, would you be able to? Do you have his phone number? Are you allowed to say that? You have it, don't you?
No comment. No comment.
Well, I'm leading into this, obviously. You have a relationship with Tiger Woods. You were the assistant pro at Isleworth Country Club in Florida during the years of 1998 to 2003. Tiger Woods was down there at the time. And I'm sure you have a ton of stories. I want to lead into you telling whatever favorite one you have, but I want to tell you that you gave the best analogy I've ever heard of how good Tiger Woods is.
Oh. Yeah.
And maybe you know what it is. You told someone in a news article years back, Tiger Woods is better at golf than I am at breathing.
When I moved on from Isleworth in 2003, I went to this wonderful club up in Rhode Island called Isleworth Country Club. And people would ask me all the time about Tiger and getting to know Tiger. And then, generally speaking, he would still win a tournament and he would be on Sunday. And they would say, how good is he? Because he would win by 10 or something, or he'd win his 5th one in a row. And, my initial reaction the first time ever was to think that, like, what is the simplest thing in the world that I have to do in order to live, right? And this has kind of popped into my head. And a lot of things, as you could tell by this interview, a lot of things pop into my head all the time. Hopefully they're all good. But I just said, Tiger Woods is better at golf than I am at breathing. And the person replied back, they're like, Keith, breathing's pretty important. And I was like, no, I get it. I hope you get what I'm saying.
I got
it. And, I got to see it live. I got to play with Tiger. There's no bigger Tiger fan than me and than everyone else that loves Tiger for the man that I knew from, 1998 to 2003, the hard work and the discipline that he showed all the time. He was so good to the staff. See, Tiger's 2 years younger than me. And it wasn't like he was going to have a ton of friends. And the whole golf staff there was all about my age. So we were all friends. We were the only people he could talk to, whether it was, an NCAA bracket. I mean, who is he going to do that with? Phil? Roger Maltby? Who's he doing this with, right? So, we all, developed a camaraderie and we all learned from one another. And there's a zillion Tiger stories. He was a huge influence on my life at that time. And, I certainly wanted to play for a living, and like so many people do in their 20s when, they come out and they say, oh, I can do this. And you find out very quickly at a place like Isleworth where they had 9 touring professionals, you have a guy like Mark O'Meara who could have been my dad at the time winning the Masters. And I go out and play with him and you can see how good he could play. Forget Tiger. Forget Tiger.
They're all good. Honestly, super good.
People have a tough time. Golf gets very... kind of situational, big fish, small pond. You're like, oh, our club champ's really good. Folks, let me tell you what
Throw
good is.
Out there,
yeah,
man.
Yeah. Let me tell you what really good is. And there's any number of stories where Tiger, we would get into bets with him, and we would have all sorts of fun, and we would go back and forth all the time. And I think that one of the most pure things about golf, and why we go back to why it will sustain if we concentrate on the fun, was that we would bring the fun in him out all the time. And I think, one of the, golly, there's so many. I'm trying to think of a really good one that everyone can learn.
Well, a couple observations with Tiger. For one, you talk about trying to let him have fun. The shell that he had to build around himself from being in his single digits of age had to have been enormous, because everything every bad round he had to give an hour news conference. A lot of the guys on the tour, they just can walk back to their car. No one wants to talk to him. Tiger Woods had to talk to every single reporter at every single tournament, whether he did well or he didn't. So that's tough. The other thing is, there's diligence, there's hard work, there's dedication, but there's also immense sacrifice.
Sure.
He gave up a lot of his life to do what he did. And I'm not going to bring up anything other than that. I think people need to appreciate that, and how you can't be a perfect human being, no matter who you are. But you get to see what type of person everyone is when they get on that stage, and it's very easy for people to criticize.
Certainly one of the greatest athletes of our time, and certainly an argument for the greatest golfer of all time, but I'll simply end by saying, this on that subject is that a grip on your club's like a grip on your world, right? And as the 2000s kind of carried on and you get into 08, 09, and 10, right? Obviously, as his play declined, right? Maybe a grip on his world was in some state of flux,
Sure.
And I'll always be a diehard Tiger fan. Nothing makes me happier than when he came back and he won again.
Oh, man.
Right? Because there were so many people. If you go in my office, and you've been in there
Sure.
now because you're here at Springdale, but what sits behind my desk is the Tiger Slam. All 4 flags signed. Pebble 2000, St. Andrews 2000, Bob May Valhalla 2000, and then the 2001 Masters. All signed, picture of Tiger and I. And I sit in front of that every day, and it stayed there every single year, because I believe He was tremendous for the game. And it goes back to, in 1997, we didn't know how to deal with all of that, right? And we're learning as we go, just as we're presently learning as we go. And I was a fan then, I was a fan during, and I couldn't be a bigger fan now. Hey, think about it. As crazy a year as it's been, is there anything crazier that in 20 days, your defending champion at the 2020 Masters in November is none other than Tiger Woods?
I mean, I don't know. It's funny how many times people had to be reminded, don't doubt Tiger Woods. Don't doubt Tiger Woods. The way I see it now, obviously, is a lot of physical problems. The back goes out. When it's cold, he has trouble getting around the golf course. Maybe he should just only play the Masters. And then he'd get to Nicklaus's record of 18 majors. I mean, I'm being honest. What do you think?
Oh, there's horses for courses. There's no doubt. I mean, that's been proven throughout the test of time. So for him, Torrey Pines or Firestone or the Memorial, of course, the Masters is certainly one. He even in those years where he didn't play the whole spring, he would T4. So, I mean, there's certainly, there's no rough. Okay, so now at him being older and injured, right, he doesn't have to hit out of the rough that he did at, let's say, TPC Harding Park. All right, that's a problem,
sure.
Right? You go to a place like Bethpage,
cold.
Yeah, sure, another problem. So, I think back to, one of those rainy weekends at Riviera like 2 years ago where, he came off the golf course at 7 o'clock at night. He had to answer an hour of questions. And then he said, yeah, I'm going to wake up at like 3:30 because I have to stretch out because I got to go play 27 holes tomorrow. So enjoy it while you can, folks. I mean, it's not going to last forever. I think the coolest thing about Tiger and even Phil at this point is going back to my point about learning from younger people. I mean, these guys are actually having fun, and they're poking a little fun at themselves. They're putting themselves out there. I mean, the rapport between Charles Barkley and all of those guys at a time where we hadn't had professional sports in weeks. And the best thing that we could hope for was a documentary on it Sunday night, which was great. But I mean, to have the live storytelling that, that drama unfold, that you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it wasn't Rocky. You know what's going to happen at the end of Rocky. But to have that back and have that rapport and have those guys embrace that situation says a lot about where we're going to go and how golf is in such a great place.
I think he'll get to 18 majors and maybe 19, and if he doesn't, I'm proven wrong. But I don't doubt this man anymore.
I 100% agree. 100% agree.
During your podcast that I appeared on, or not appeared, but listened.
We spoke.
Whatever. We spoke.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. It's good to have another broadcaster around just in case I lose words.
Wait, hang on. Time out, folks. Disclaimer. Ready? Okay. This is a real broadcaster.
No. He's good.
I'm just...
You got to listen to him. So Bryson DeChambeau, I told you I think it's good for the game because people are simply talking about it.
Yeah.
Other people have felt like it's not good. Like, what do you think about him bombing drives literally 340 yards in the air?
I mean, aren't we all descendants of Darwin? I mean, don't things evolve, Matt? At the end of the day, I mean, let's just have like a fun conversation about this topic, okay? Would you still want to play with hickory shafts?
No.
And a gutta percha ball? I mean, would anyone be playing golf still if things didn't evolve in the game? And throughout the test of time, there's always been some sort of, polarizing magnet that's led the way. And has that person always been the one that, has sustained the level that Bryson is at right now of winning and so on and so forth? Could does his delivery, in my mind, personally, have a bit to be desired? Sure. But again, and you brought it up before, people don't know what it's like when you have a bad day and someone sits you down for half an hour and says, Matt, tell me how bad your day really was, right? I mean, that is a really hard thing to do.
Yes.
I mean, we're going to sit here and go back and forth and have like a fun Q&A like we would do week in and week out, on ESPN radio, when we're doing Springdale Golf Live. I mean, the pro show. I have people on there. We tell the greatest stories. We play rock and roll music. We had a great intro for you. Bryson and what he is doing. Sure, some people don't agree with it, but it's good for golf. It's part of the fun aspect. And if you don't believe it, right, he's caught the attention of the best players in the world. And you see it all over social media right now. DJ and Rory commenting on it, but then behind the scenes, they're trying to hit it further. Tony Finau saying, I could swing harder. He's not the one. I could swing harder. Well, that's kind of cool. Don't you want to see athletes compete at the highest level? Isn't that what Tiger did in '97? He just said, he probably shouldn't have came out and said, well, I won this week with my B game, which kind of irked a little people, a couple of people on tour, like, hey, we're pretty good, how about the famous Curtis Strange clip they show all the time? Hey, kid, out on tour, second or third's pretty good, and then Tiger says, you know what, second sucks and third's even worse, right? And Curtis Strange says, he goes, you'll learn, kid, you'll learn. You know what? At that time, people were like, Tiger's disrespectful to this and that. And right now, he doesn't move the needle, he is the needle. So I don't know that Bryson will get to that level of success, but I'm in lockstep with you. I love it. I think it's great for the game. I think it causes us all to be more creative on how we set up golf courses and make it more fun. And the equipment needs to head in that direction because the game's hard. Everyone that's walking by us here today, they need that equipment. They need the ball. It's good.
So when you play in the NFL, you pay a price. Later on in life, you really, really hurt.
Sure.
Do you think the way that Bryson has built himself up and the impact it may have, maybe a couple years down the road or maybe a decade or so, might also incorporate golf into a place where you have to pay a price to play the game?
He will definitely pay a price, because he's the beta test for all of this. So there will be pros and cons to what he has done. And there were pros and cons to what Tiger did. I mean, when I was there for 5 years, he had 4 knee surgeries. So his left knee just couldn't hold up to the way he was swinging the golf club. And, having seen him work with Butch, I mean, they were fully aware of what they were doing and the level with which it could take his game. But yeah, there was a price to pay. And look at all of those swingers. I mean, the only one I could think of that really hasn't come out that has had an injury bug has been Rory. But if you look at DJ's had injury issues, Brooks, guys with their wrists, those joints can only sustain so much of that torque.
It's like being a pitcher.
Yes.
Your body is not meant to throw a baseball 100 miles an hour.
I don't think so, no. No, not. I mean, I think it's proven all the time, Being here in the New York area, I think the Mets prove it, like once a month,
So you've taught, I don't know, hundreds of golfers in your career, maybe more, and you see what people do that makes it harder for themselves to play the game. What can you throw out there, like a little nugget that anyone can kind of use that helps to improve their game? And practice is obviously the easy one, and actually the hardest one too. It's the easiest one to say, it's the hardest one to do. I mean, what do you think?
At the risk of being almost answering that question in too simplified a form, I'm going to say the first step is you should take a lesson, and not take a lesson online, but you should go out and you should spend some time and invest in a lesson with a PGA professional. And the reason being that I start there is that you realize that only 11% of people take lessons in golf. Now, your reaction to that is everyone's reaction who has played the game as much as you have, which is that's a really low number.
Yes.
And you would think, because when you go to your club and play, or you go play somewhere else, or if you're looking over my shoulder at my practice range, there's been someone teaching there this morning since 8 a.m. You see people practicing and doing those things. But in the whole golfing, kind of ecosystem, 11% of people take lessons. So if you really want to get better at golf, you need to develop a player-coach relationship. I mean, it really starts there. And then when you start to develop that relationship with that person, and the first one may not click. You might be a man that wants to go see a woman instructor. You might be a woman that wants to go see a man instructor, a woman to a woman. I say test things out. There's all these opportunities, especially in our area here. Princeton sits halfway between, two of the biggest markets for golf, with the finest golf facilities and professionals in the country, between Philadelphia and New York. Get out and take a lesson. Take a live physical lesson. Develop a player-coach relationship. They will point out things that will be so obvious it'll seem like Post-its. Okay, it's like, why didn't I think of that? All right, and if you do that, they will give you a practice routine. They may give you a fitness routine. You could take it to the nth level. But just the idea that you're going to read a magazine or go on YouTube or just watch it on TV, that'll give you an appreciation. But how do you process all that, Matt? Right? So, sure, maybe this sounds like a PSA, but the best answer to your question is, for us as a golfing community, is to further build our ecosystem is to get that number from 11% to 20%. And out of this COVID immediate impact of all the the people, the 10 million people that the National Golf Foundation tells us that were extra, that played the game in the month of August nationwide, right? Let's get that number from 11% to 20%, all right? It's good for my side of the game. It's great for your side of the game. We learn from one another as player and coach, and it's just a tremendous opportunity. Now, if I don't go on at length about that, just practice your short game. It's 40% of your shots.
When I finally listened to someone telling me that was when I started to score.
Yeah.
Short game. It's fun to hit it long. It's hard to practice a short game. But here's the thing that made me go, whoa. When you're on the short game area, that's when you can be creative. You can hit driver, you're not going to be creative with it. You can maybe hit it a slice or a draw or whatever, or hit it low. But you don't have, there's millions of shots around the green that you can learn.
Yeah. One of the reasons, it was so much fun for me personally to have you on the show and to speak with you, is that it was going to get my creative juices flowing. I knew that having someone who knew how to speak, knew how to answer questions on my show, versus maybe just a regional club pro who was going to tell me their life story. But you were going to do exactly what you're doing right now, which was make me think. And I love to do that. I love a good puzzle. I can remember growing up, my dad would always have puzzles on the dining room table. And for some reason that, nature nurture, there was an imprinting there. And I love a good puzzle, right? Here's the thing with short game, right? If you want to take 5 strokes off your game, right? Are you going to do it with the driver? You play 18 holes. Okay, here at Springdale today, we have 4 par 3s. So you're going to play 18 holes. There's 14 tee shots. How many drivers are you going to hit? 14, right? You're going to hit 14 tee shots. You can't remove those. But if you putt 35 times because our greens are challenging, and then you come back next week and you putt 30 times, or you chip and that leads to longer putts to try to get up and down, then that's the only way you can affect your game. It's simple math, right? So for everyone that's out there, please, take a lesson and ask about the short game. See how you can improve. But the creativity aspect of it, right? It makes perfect sense to me because you're a creative person in everything that you do, right? You ooze creativity, and that's cool. And that's why people love you. And that's why people wake up at some ungodly hour and they tune into you, because they love your storytelling, right? So that's why stuff like that. If you're a creative person, take a short game lesson. Imagine what you can learn about the game, right?
I just read out of a box. One thing real quick to endorse going to a person to teach you the game, going to a golf teacher. I was a hacker. Tried to go to driving ranges and try to work on my swing. Hacker. And then I started going to a teacher. And not just like once every 5 years, but once a year. That's when I went from hacker to someone who can sort of score and steer the golf ball around the golf course. So totally agreed.
11%. Let's get it to 20, folks.
What is your favorite club?
Putter.
Keith Stewart. Is it?
Yeah.
Pull it out. See, I still love my driver.
All right. I'm a Holy Cross alum, so
Yeah, you were a lacrosse player there.
I was, yes.
Not a golf guy.
Not a Division I golfer. I was a Division I lacrosse player for 4 years there. Letterman, fantastic opportunity to go. And I'm a local kid, New Jersey. Went to St. Joe's in Metuchen. Played lacrosse there. All boys school. So you played a cool game like lacrosse, so you could meet a girlfriend and those types of things, when you're 17. And but go up to Holy Cross, get done. And like I mentioned earlier, I spent time when I was a kid growing up in North Edison, Menlo Park. That Metuchen Golf and Country Club was right there, and it was a job. And I was just always around the game. But this is pre-Tiger Woods for you and I, so we don't have that initial boom. And we're very fortunate, you and I, that golf has become so cool. And
why do you have this relationship with your putter when you immediately say, this is my favorite club?
Well, in many ways, it's like Excalibur. I think of all the clubs in the bag, the technology plays a big role. So you're always going to kind of evolve your bag, whether it's the driver.
Yeah, like
or,
for instance, drivers, you cannot miss them anymore.
Well, not only that, but even 5 years ago, that driver, right, is going to go further than the one you had before.
Sure.
But with putting, you know, you can somewhat develop a personal attachment to something. So, you know, I mentioned the name Excalibur. It's because, like, when this putter was bestowed upon me, it was like, you know, I had the ability to pull it out of the stone.
Sure.
And it was a gift to me. So I was out. You can read it. Okay.
Titleist John Cook.
All right. So Mr. Cook was a member at Isleworth. John Cook, everybody knows him. Blonde hair, California kid, USAM champ, PGA Tour, very successful player. He's on the Golf Channel now. So I played a lot of golf with Mr. Cook. And one day I'm out playing and I'm not putting very well. And he says, you know, well, what's wrong? And I said, you know, it's just this putter, I don't know, something about it. He says, and we were on a hole that was about a block and a half from his house. He said, let's go over to my garage. So we go over to his garage and he's got a garbage can, like your usual garbage can at your house. And it's got an endless amount of putters in it. Now, I mean, here's a professional golfer. So of course, you know, he's been,
Sure.
you know, here's a putter and you know, on to the next one. So he says, why don't you pick a couple out and, you know, test them out. He goes, you know, and then you can use it, right? And I said, all right, fine. So I picked out 3 that looked just like this, that had the scoop back, and it was just something that caught my eye. There's no lines on my putter. That's important. Some people like lines, some people don't. If you can't guess by now, you know, I'm not a line person.
You're a feel.
You know? Well, yeah. I mean, I took the road less taken, Matt, and in the end, that's made all the difference, right? So, staying on that line, you know, probably doesn't suit my personality, the way I see things. So I get this putter, I start using it, and I love it, right? And I take the other 2, and I go and I give them back to him, and he's like, Keith, he goes, did you see the garbage can? He goes, you can keep all of them. He goes, I like, yeah. And I go, well, this one kind of spoke to me. And he goes, why? And we talked about it for a little bit, and we had like a little bit of like a kismet moment, and he said, you know what? He said, keep it, right? And use that, right? And that was in 1999. And a really funny story about that, oh, golly, like 7 or 8 years ago, I get invited to go down and play in the Pine Valley Pro member. One of the members here is a member down there, and I'm playing in that event. And I'm in the staging area, and who do I bump into? But John Cook. And Cookie goes, he's like, Keith Stewart. And I'm like, hey, Mr. Cook, how you doing? And he's like, hey, how you doing? Right? And I said, I'm doing great. You know, a little bit of small talk. Where are you now? What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I have my bag right next to me. So of course, you know, I pull it out, I throw the head cover off, and I'm like, hey, you remember this? And he looks at that. And he said, you know, I'm glad it meant so much to you. And I said, you know what, Mr. Cook, it really did. So, is this the best putter in the world? I don't know, Matt, but it's certainly the best putter for me.
On that note, I think we need to play some golf.
Hey, man, that's what we're here for. You know?
You're going to analyze my swing, too, if you don't mind. And you're going to do the commentary on
the
course.
Just
one swing.
The entire time.
Not all the swings.
Yeah.
And hopefully they're going to be less than 90, 80. I mean, I'd like to be in the 70s, but I don't know. You're
going to be in the 70s today.
You think so?
Yes.
Okay.
I got a scouting report from a former assistant of mine here, Darren Bolton, who you know very well now.
Yes,
and big shout out to Debo. And you know, I know what to look for, and we're going to steer you right around here and make sure you have a Springdale day.
Could you be my mental coach too? You're a very positive person on my game.
I tell you,
I haven't hit a shot yet.
Yeah.
Keith Stewart, Director of Fun, Springdale Golf Club in Princeton, New Jersey, and the John Cook Putter on the True Philadelphia podcast. Thanks, Keith.
Appreciate it. Stay sunny, Philadelphia. You know, it's my home course, so I figure I might as well have some fun with the driver today.
The fans really were hoping for that, so.
You know, it's all about the fans, you know.
Nice line.
Now on the tee, playing out of desperation, Matt O'Donnell.
Thank you.
Smooth swinger. I look for a nice little straight shot here. Probably about a 2-yard cut. This hole fits his eye. Athletic stance. Looks really strong. Awesome rip at it right there.
Thanks to Keith Stewart for his time. Thanks for putting up with me for 18 holes of golf. Long live Keith Stewart. Long live Springdale Golf Club. Long live the game of golf. Thanks for listening or watching. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. I'm Matt O'Donnell. Stay true, Philadelphia.
Well, I don't mind you.
All my dreams came true.
Glad you enjoyed our magic.